It's the Jack and Nick Horror Show.
Welcome to the Jack and Nick Horror Show. I am. Hey.
Welcome.
Welcome. Join us, why don't you? Hi. How are you? Sit down. Sit down. Join me.
We bought you such nice chairs.
We have. Yeah.
So, my name is Nick, and this guy is.
I'm Jack.
Hi, Jack.
Hi. And we are the Jack and Nick Horror Show.
This is the first step in our new project. There's going to be a lot of things added to this later on. Right now, we're only on iTunes. Soon, we'll be on Stitcher if that's more convenient for you. Also, in the future, not to pull back the curtain too much, you will be able to hear this on YouTube. So, there's that. That's coming. But right now, please, guys, subscribe to the podcast. Share, like everything we're doing. Click the little thumbs up button wherever we are, because if you guys don't help us out right now, we're never going anywhere with this. So thanks a lot for coming today.
Yes, thank you very much. On this show today, we are going to give you a movie of the week, which is Halloween 2. This will be the Rick Rosenthal Halloween 2, not Rob Zombie's Halloween 2.
The original.
Halloween
2.
1981. And Nick, what else do we have in store?
We're also going to be talking about the Halloween franchise as a whole. We're going to be playing a new segment called Rank 'em, where Jack and I have to rank all the movies in the franchise in order of our personal favorites. And we also took a lot of opinions on the internet. It's our first episode, and we already got so much feedback, it's going to be ridiculous.
Exactly. Yeah, it is. And we are going to go through all the listeners' feedback. There are going to be a couple other moments on here. We'll just let those moments happen. And thank you very much. And let's get the show started.
Awesome.
Jack and Nick.
Every episode of the Jack and Nick Show, we're going to be having a movie of the week. This week, it is Halloween 2, and we chose this one because A, we hope you've seen it, you've had 34 years, and B, we wanted to start off with a sequel, since this is the sequel to everything we've ever done, essentially. So, Jack, tell the people about this.
It's Halloween 2, and it was made in 1981 by one Rick Rosenthal, who directed Halloween H2O. This is the sequel to the original Halloween from John Carpenter. Originally, they wanted John Carpenter to direct it. John Carpenter said no, and I believe it was supposed to go to Tommy Lee Wallace, but Rick Rosenthal took it over and made the movie that you see, which is basically Laurie Strode in a hospital after the same night of Halloween 1, and Michael Myers continues to go after her in the hospital. And
right, it's literally the same Halloween.
Yeah, it's the night he came home still.
Right. Most movies don't do that. Most horror, like I was trying to think of other Halloween, or not just Halloween movies, but other movies that the sequel picks up immediately after the first one ends.
There's what is it, the Cold Prey series 1 and 2 do exactly a Halloween 1 and 2.
Yeah,
like right as
Hatchet does it.
Hatchet does it as well. Yeah, and
all the way through 3, in fact.
Yeah, rated in through 3. You can watch them all as one seamless film. They could have done that with the Evil Dead series too, but and The Descent. I believe The Descent does that, but for worse.
And what it does for the Halloween series, I like it because we're going right into something. We're not hung up on the mythology of an origin story. We already know what's going on. We're in the thick of an ongoing night of terror, you know?
Right.
It brings an intensity to it and a sense of urgency that comes along with that.
And it's not lazy.
Yeah, it's not. There's no slowing down right from the beginning. Dr. Loomis, the doctor who's, the Ahab of the story, chasing his white whale of Michael Myers. He's he's on the hunt. He's with the police, and they're chasing down people in the street who might be Michael Myers.
Right. And the with that, I'm going to get to that in a second, actually, with his chase. And one huge thing that they always mention about Halloween 2 is the big fuck up in the sound department with the 7 bullets, because he shot him 7 times.
Yeah.
And he keeps saying he shot him 6 times, and it was 6 and 1, but it's 7 and 2, which a lot of people know I'm not like Mr. Genius here. But right after, it picks up, and it's Dr. Loomis going directly outside looking for Michael Myers. The character that they mistake for Michael Myers is Ben Tramer, who they're talking about in Halloween 1. The girls are talking about. And Ben Tramer, when he gets hit by the car, man, that's like the best dummy death ever.
Oh, yeah. Especially because, he gets hit by a car, slammed into the van, pinned in there, and then, the dummy slumps over, perfectly.
Yeah.
Where a shocked, on-fire human might just do that.
Yeah.
It was pretty great.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no, I was going to say, this whole movie, though, everything about it is more brutal and violent, and, that next level up that any horror sequel should be if it hopes to top the original. Right.
It gives you more of the same, but a little bit more, and that's sort of like the quote unquote problem that happened from Rick Rosenthal is he tried to make a sequel in the same, let's say, the same vein as Halloween 1 that Carpenter did. He was very skimpy on the blood and tried to make it as suspenseful as possible. Mm-hmm. And then submitted the film, and then before this movie, you had Friday the 13th, which came out, which brought the blood, mm-hmm. and other slashers, which brought the blood, and
right.
Halloween.
Everything was ramping up around this franchise as it grew.
Right. So what had happened was Carpenter came in, and the producers were like, we need to compete with the other movies, or else this is going to take a crap at the box office. So John Carpenter shot some extra scenes mm-hmm. for the film, and that's the one with the old people in the beginning, and then the girl getting stabbed in the throat when Michael Myers jumps out and from the couch, and mm-hmm. the other I believe the other scene with Dori Duro from I call her Dori Duro, I can't remember her name ever, from Sledgehammer and Prom Night, when she's coming out with the whatchamacallit, the Karen, the one that goes in the hot tub time machine with Bud, Leo Rossi in this.
Yeah, that was not a time machine.
I know it wasn't.
But, I think it's all great flavor that gets added to the film, though.
Yeah, and it is. It really adds.
The early scene with the old people, especially, it doesn't feel like it's part of this movie, but it also kind of is, and is kind of fun.
It's
dopey.
Yes, it's like a very cool sprinkled subplot thing where all these subplots are just popping up all over the place, but they're still fun to watch and kind of tie into the craziness of Halloween 1. The first time you saw Halloween 2, when was that? Do you recall?
Oh my god, I haven't seen this movie for so long. I actually saw it when I was a teenager. It was probably back how cable TV used to play all the Halloween movies in a row. It was before 6 came out, so it was early 90s, and it was probably on Joe Bob's show on TNT, uh-huh. Monster Vision.
Really?
Maybe. Either that or USA. That's where all the horror used to be, man.
Well, yeah. I mean, I remember the Halloween 2 on Monster Vision. I actually have a copy of it.
Yeah.
And speaking of Leo Rossi, when he does the Amazing Grace, Come Sit on My Face scene and all that. There's a moment in the film where, on the TV version, I'll say, where they dub out the bad words and everything, and during that scene, he says, oh, damn this and damn that. And she goes, all you ever say are words like hell, damn, or damn. And then he goes, well, I guess I just up all the time, right?
Yeah.
So Joe Bob is talking about that during his commercial break, and then he goes, pay attention later on when Bud and Karen damn the hell out of each other. Yeah. So the first time I saw this was actually when I was younger. I was old enough for the actual release of this. If I actually went to the theater to see it at 4 years old, so I did that with Star Wars. I do remember that a little bit, but
we should explain, because there's going to be new people listening.
Oh yeah, I'm old.
He's older than me.
I'm older than Nick, yes. I'm currently 41, if you need to know.
I'm 34.
There you have it. And we're... Okay, anyway. So
most 20-year-olds listening, just shut this off.
They're like, fuck these old guys. Right. But I saw it on a local television station. It was like, I believe it was TV 29 in around Philadelphia. And they would always show Halloween 1 and then Halloween 2. Halloween 1, Halloween 2 every October. And normally it was right at Halloween. Like on the day or the day before or the night before, but it was always during Halloween. When, TV stations and, film studios really played into that. And that's how I always remember Halloween. I mean, yeah, I went trick-or-treating, but I always remember I had to get home to watch Halloween 1 and then Halloween 2. Mm-hmm. And, yeah, I saw the TV version, but, I was younger. So I would say that Dick Warlock is by far the coolest Michael Myers than any Michael Myers in this entire series.
Now, how do you figure?
He's almost like a walking doll. It's almost like a possessed voodoo doll with a mask that is walking around. And I got that feeling from the multiple guys that played in one, mostly Nick Castle, but it's just one of them things where he is just... I know he's shorter, but the way he walks and how he's like... It's almost like he's possessed in a way. Mm-hmm. It's really cool. To me, at least.
See, with me, my problem with Michael Myers, and this has been my problem throughout the whole series until the Rob Zombie movies actually rectified it. Michael Myers is not like imposing or scary to me whatsoever.
Really?
Because he looks like he's shorter and skinnier than a threat to me would be. I'm over 6 foot tall. I'm like 6'1", 6'2", something in that range. I don't know my actual height. I weigh over 300 pounds. I was watching that one scene where they're in the room with the oxygen tanks, and Dr. Loomis is on one side and Laurie is on the other, and they're turning on the oxygen tanks. Michael Myers has been blinded. He's going back and forth between the whooshing sound of the oxygen regulators, right? Mm-hmm. I was like, if he was blinded, I would pick him up and put him on my shoulders in a Lex Luger torture rack and just start pulling until I heard snapping. He just looks tiny to me. I don't feel like threatened by him at all. Whereas like Tyler Mane, I'm worried about that guy. Right? Even like Kane Hodder in the movies, the Friday the 13th movies, he cuts an imposing figure. Like, if you're going to frighten me, I need size, girth, strength. Whereas I feel like from Michael Myers, all that you have is, sort of a cold emptiness, which works nicely if you're worried about a cold, empty killer killing you. But I'm not particularly.
I don't think size matters, in my opinion. I think it's the emptiness and the blankness of the actual mask. That's the scary part, and the fact that like this dude, regular sized guy, can just fuck up your whole entire evening. That's just my opinion. I mean, Warlock in 3 is the one of the main robot dudes, which we'll talk about later. But I just think that he's got that coolness that a lot of the Michael Myers are sort of missing in later I guess sequels. I'll just call them. So as far as shots go, I have 3 cool shots for this movie. One is dead nurse in the pool of blood.
Mm-hmm.
On
That's
the table.
great. That's great. Especially like when the dude walks in and falls over next to her.
Falls out, yep.
And he's laying in the blood.
Yeah, and it's crazy. He dies in this version, like in the theatrical version, but the TV version is a lame ending. Have you ever? Do you recall ever seeing the TV version or no?
Dude, no, I can't remember this movie. One time we were actually talking about the Halloween movies. I don't think it was on a podcast or anything. I think it was just you and me talking about the Halloween movies, and I was like, which one is it that has like the oxygen tanks at the hospital? And you were like, that was in part 2. And I was like, no, it wasn't that one. There was some other one where they're in a hospital and they're in a hot tub and they get all burned up. And you were like, no, this is all part 2. And I was like, oh shit, I love that movie. Like, I feel like I've only seen it like once in my life, because there's like some things here that I totally forget, and there's some things here that I totally remember vividly. Mm-hmm. So your first one is when the nurse falls into the blood.
Yes. And then the second one is the nurse scalpel in the back lift, where she gets the scalpel and then he lifts her.
I hate that.
Yeah, I know you do.
He can do it. He doesn't look like he's strong enough to lift her with a scalpel.
I know, but you remember, he's pure evil.
He's an evil weenie. He's no match for my torture rack.
And the last one, which is kind of ridiculous, but I think it's really cool, is the bloody tears.
Okay. Now, I actually have some different shots that I absolutely love. I agree with you on the bloody tears.
Okay.
But 2 of my favorite things, now, when it comes to killers and killings and murders in movies, I always prefer the more brutal, gory stuff, which is why the Halloween movies never really satisfy me, because they're not as good at gore as a lot of the other slasher franchises. And in this one, the hot tub one that I mentioned, mm-hmm. where the lady's face gets pushed into the hot tub and it's just, her skin is flaking off and gross and blistering. Uh-huh. I've always loved that. I thought it was brilliant.
And that's one of the things that kind of freaked me out when I was little, to see, because I'm like, wait a minute, you can die from a hot tub?
Well, when your face is stuffed underneath it for long enough, you just kind of boil up like a chicken.
Yeah.
And another shot that I absolutely love, mm-hmm. Loomis is in the room. It's filling with oxygen. He shoots Michael Myers. Everything explodes. And Michael Myers comes walking out completely on fire. I love everything about that. And the music's playing and shit. The theme, I mean. The theme is playing there, right? I didn't imagine that.
Yeah, it's the the riser theme, like the yeah.
Whatever. It's beautiful, even if I imagined it. And I love it also because as he gets closer to the camera, you could see he's totally a stuntman wearing gloves and stuff. But it's awesome. Yeah. And he, that's just pure, powerful, awesome.
And in my opinion, when I was younger, I'm like, all right, so Loomis is dead, Michael Myers is dead, that's the end of Michael Myers.
Right. That's why this movie is so good, because, they didn't plan on continuing the franchise beyond this movie when they made it.
Right.
So the ending is definitive. Yeah. Dr. Loomis and Michael Myers are both fucking dead. There's no sequels. There's no Cult of Thorn. No Laurie returns later on, 20 years down the line. No Busta Rhymes. Nothing else happens. This is it.
Yep. But we're going to have another one of those in the future, which we'll talk about later.
Right. It happens over and over again then.
Yeah.
I don't actually remember in part 4, how does Dr. Loomis come back after the explosion? Do they ever make mention of it? Or they just like, no,
yeah, his face is burned, and he's like, I got the scars to prove it. And he has an Italian accent, too, like a really stereotypical one. There isn't too much to add to this, to be honest with you, because so many have covered it. But it's one of those films that it needs to be seen every Halloween for me. at least in my household.
It needs to be seen, period. I mean, at some point in your horror-going life, you should at least see the first 2 Halloweens.
Yep. Yeah.
Because they're fun. This one is just, it's ridiculously fun. It's intense. And I mean, I've said before that I'm not really a huge fan of the first Halloween just because I don't feel like it's brutal enough. I don't feel like it does enough for me. Everything that the first one lacks, this one has like more of. It's a sequel in like that classic Hollywood way of the sequel needs to have more of everything that the first one had.
Right. Well, I mean, and again, the first one, it was more one of those things that Carpenter didn't want to show blood, and plus they didn't have money for it. But you know, it's one of those movies that he wanted to be all suggestive, you know, and not necessarily, you know, overt or over the top or anything, which kind of adds to it for me because sometimes, yeah, a lot of people make up that thing that, like, if what's in your head is worse than what you see on the screen, and sometimes that can be true. Sometimes you kind of need the blood. You want to see some brutality in a horror film. Mm-hmm. And, you know, I mean, this, like, it's weird that, like, Black Christmas gave birth to Halloween, and Halloween gave birth to Friday the 13th, and Friday the 13th surpassed Halloween as far as the brutality. So
Right.
Halloween 2 had to try to be at the same level with, well, Friday the 13th and the other movies that tried to mimic the what Halloween spawned.
Yeah,
You know?
that's totally true, and especially that continues throughout the series. I mean, once you get up to parts 6, 7, and 8, they're doing all the ridiculous shit that slashers before them had done. Heads exploding, heads being cut off.
Right.
Every ridiculous, cheesy moment gets, you know, replicated throughout. And, I mean, this is definitely a series that, as time went on, you got varying degrees of ups and downs, as we'll talk about when we do rank them.
Yes.
But, I mean, there's a lot that,
What do you think of Halloween 2? Would you recommend it? Yes?
yeah, I mean, we're not, just so you guys know out there in listening land, we're not really reviewing it, obviously. We've decided instead to just have me and Jack shooting the shit. So now we're going to say whether or not we recommend it,
Yes.
rather than giving it a grade of an A+ or a thumbs up or a butts up or whatever. I'm going to say every horror fan should see this movie. See it. I don't care how you see it. I don't care if you purchase it or if you have to get video on demand. You should see this movie. If you somehow haven't and you listen to our show, yeah, go see it.
I would say if you have the means, it should be in your collection. If you have the means, it should be in your collection, along with many of the other ones, which we'll discuss later. All right, so...
Show rolls on.
What we're going to do right now is rank them. What are we ranking? We are ranking the Halloween series. And what's going to happen is we asked our Twitter followers and Facebook friends or fans of the page, likers of the page, whatever you want to call it on Facebook.
Future listeners.
Future
Yeah.
listeners, yes.
Present listeners, maybe.
What their favorite Halloween movies are and their least favorite Halloween movies. So what we're going to do is we're going to go through the listeners' feedback first, and then at the end of this, Nick and myself are both going to rank our favorite Halloween movies in order.
Right, the whole
descending
series,
order.
the whole franchise, and maybe, just maybe, your points were so good that they changed our picks. We'll find out at the end.
Right. But they probably didn't. Sorry guys.
So first off, from Facebook, D.A. Cheney wrote in, my favorites. The first one, and H2O. H2O is cheesy, but if it's on, I'll always sit and watch. And Halloween 3 is my least favorite, despite that it had a cool idea. I might have liked it more, except when I saw it for the first time, I had been waiting for Myers to show up the entire movie.
I think everybody else did in 1983. Yeah. I'm glad that Halloween 3 is taken off. Like, it's become its own thing, which we'll discuss later too. But
Right. It's definitely amongst horror fans, it's sort of become more of a cult classic than any other movie in the series. Not that it's the most popular movie in the series, but definitely, it's taken on a life of its own. The
Right.
people's interest in this movie. You see stuff from Halloween 3, like the masks pop up in that Adam Wingard movie, The Guest.
Wingard,
There are references to it in other movies. Just what was you laughing at?
Wingard,
I don't know how to say his name. Wingard?
that's fine.
That sounds terrible. Sounds like some sort of wiper.
But yes, it was. I thought you were doing the hairband Winger, but they are. Yeah, that movie is referenced in The Guest. Yeah, with the masks in the back, and actually a lot of that The Guest was based on part 3, which is weird.
Sort of.
Well, yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, Brian on Facebook says, the first Halloween is my favorite, but closely followed by part 3. Again, with part 3. Part 3 is simply one of my favorite movies to watch during the Halloween season. My least favorite would be if you could splice together the film reels of part 1 and part 2 of Zombies versions into one movie. At least then I could simultaneously wipe my ass with it. All right. Now,
I'm sorry. I know there's going to be hate for Zombies movies, but
I think that's one of the only comments that we had that was really negative about Zombies movies.
I think that's kind of funny. I happen to like the zombie movies, but that's kind of funny.
I feel like horror fans in general have started the turnaround on those movies.
Yes, they have.
Because there's so much hate for horror movies as soon as they come out.
Yeah.
That people eventually allow them to grow on them. And granted, there are some people who are never going to like a Rob Zombie movie. I'm not saying that that's in Brian's future, but I am saying, you could look at this even beyond this with movies like Prometheus, that when it came out, it got a lot of hate. Not necessarily a horror movie, but also like Cabin in the Woods. People were hating on that when that came out. Right. And Evil Dead, the remake, people were hating on that when it came out. And now, a couple years removed from all these movies, you could see that like the hate has died down and people are going, you know what? Maybe it wasn't actually a bad movie. Especially Cabin in the Woods. I can't believe anybody was talking bad about that when it came out.
They still do.
They'll stop in time. But the comparisons I always bring up in their time when they came out, movies that were hated, The Thing,
mm-hmm.
The Shining. People thought that Stanley Kubrick was crazy, and I mean, granted, he was crazy, but the other kind of crazy, like he was crazy stupid. Like he can't make a movie, that sort of thing. There's so many horror movies that come out, and it's not apparent what is good or even great about them until later on, after time has passed. The same is true of part 3. People, when that one came out, were like, where's Michael Myers? Well, it's okay. After, when they looked at it as not a movie with Michael Myers in it, they were like, okay with it,
The funny thing is, like, if you read, if anybody out there has ever read the fan mail in Fangoria magazine from like years ago, when people would write in about the Friday the 13th series or even Halloween 3.
I'm sure no one has ever read the fan mail from
No,
1983.
No. But I'm saying like people were livid about the sequels of these movies. Like this was like the original, let's say, forums, or where the horror fan can actually step up and say fuck this or fuck that.
Before there was an internet, people used to go, I'm going to write a letter to the editor about this.
Yeah, and that's what they did, and they would publish it, and there was a lot of hate for the Friday the 13th series, and the definitely Nightmare on Elm Street 2 got blasted, as well as Halloween 3. Halloween 3 was like, it's almost like it didn't exist. Like they totally tore it apart. But yeah, I mean the same happens for Zombies movies because, if Rob Zombie, I think that if the director of the Rob Zombie's Halloween 1 and 2 wasn't actually Rob Zombie, if it were somebody else, it wouldn't have as much hate. Like it would still have hate, but it wouldn't have as much hate because I think that it's because it's Rob Zombie.
Yeah.
And
I
that's
think that there's
basically
almost like a jealousy that people are like, well, why is that guy favorited and not my favorite guy in horror? Like, why isn't Joe Lynch more famous? Or why isn't, who's the one he's always palling around with?
Oh, Adam Green, yeah.
Why isn't Adam Green more famous? You know,
Right.
why isn't Adam Wingard more famous? You know, and I think that that's part of it is that people are like, why should Rob Zombie or Eli Roth get all the love in the horror movies when their movie wasn't better than, you know, Eli Roth only produced The Sacrament, which was a better movie than Hostel. You know what I mean? Like comparing apples to oranges in the long run.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it's kind of like people being defensive over their horror guy. You know what I mean?
Right.
Strange.
But by the way, thank you, DA and Brian. It was very eloquent. I love the way you composed that. That was
Right.
very
If
funny.
he just puts 2 reels between his ass cheeks. and
I don't
spits
need to
a real
see
hat.
that, but I think it's very funny. And
Yes,
good
if
job.
anybody could possibly illustrate that and put a picture up on our Facebook, thanks.
Yeah, Brian, if you're an illustrator, by all means.
Just don't take a picture of yourself doing it.
No, we don't need to see it.
That violates everything. Everything. Our trust in our friendship would be ruined.
Yep.
Casey on Facebook writes, I have a tradition of watching part 2 on Halloween night since I was in grade school. The
There it
original is iconic, and I also have a strange fascination with Rob Zombie's H2. So there we go with Rob Zombie again. Next up.
Wait, well, Casey, yeah, see, I was going to say that's the same thing that happened to me. Because, yeah, ever since he was in grade school, watching Halloween 2.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, Casey, I agree. But go on.
I'm not a completely different Casey. This guy's name is spelled KC. In fact, it's Casey Chamberlain, an old friend of ours.
Mm-hmm.
If anyone likes Halloween Resurrection, they should have their horror card revoked, which is totally fucking true.
Yeah, it's bad. It's a bad movie.
And I love Busta Rhymes in movies for no reason.
He was good in that John Singleton one. I can't remember the name of it. The one with Michael Rappaport. Dick Ritchie, you know that guy?
No.
But yeah, thank you, Casey. Yeah, Resurrection, I agree.
And now the man with the coolest name in the world, Tor.
Tor Larson, yes.
1, 2, and 4 are fucking awesome. 3 and 5 are pretty awesome. 6 has its moments, especially the producer's cut. 7 is great. 8 is the worst in the series, correct. Rob Zombie's 1 is great. Rob Zombie's 2, I just can't get into both cuts of it. I think it's a bit of a mess, but it's been a while since I saw that one. If I want to revisit the series, I'll tend to watch 2 or 4.
Huh. Yeah, with that, I would say, yeah, I love part 4 as well.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people, huge slasher fans especially, really don't like part 4. They find it boring, which, I mean, I don't get, but I have an affection toward it because I saw it in the theater with my brother, and it was like one of those nights that you have a fully packed house kind of thing, and you watching a Halloween 4, you know, the return of Michael Myers after 3, so it's a pretty big deal for me.
For me, 4 and 5 are just kind of like run-of-the-mill.
That's what I love about them. And we'll talk about those later.
Right, I mean, I'm just saying,
But
yeah, I guess we're giving away our rankings.
Yeah. We don't want to give away too much.
So,
but
anyway, tell us who's on Twitter and what did they say?
well, actually, Tor did say something else.
Oh, he did? Hang on.
He
he said-
asked us a question.
Oh,
We
cool
can answer it.
question. Yeah, a cool question is, which sequel has the best mask design? I think part 2 does. Simple, sleek, and pure.
Tor, I agree.
I partially agree. I do like the mask in part 2, but I also like the mask in the other part 2, where it's just that decrepit, broken up, stitched together mask in Rob Zombie's Halloween 2.
That doesn't stay on him for too long.
No, it ends up on someone else.
Yeah.
But I actually like the way that decrepit mask looks. It's just kind of gross.
But
But
yeah,
that's-
the two thing is just like it's for. I just love Halloween 2's whole costume. Like
He does kind of look like a porcelain. Like now that you said porcelain doll,
Mhm.
it's actually kind of reminding me of the guy from Puppet Master. The one with the knife hands. What's his name? Jack?
I think it's Blade.
Blade. That's
Yeah.
it. Jack is the guy with the guns or something.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah, Blade. He kind of looks like him.
Yeah.
Like that sort of. Well, as he described it, simple and sleek.
Yeah. As far as Twitter goes, we have Josh at Josh Macmillan. He says 1 and 2 H2O, and I do enjoy the remakes. There is something about each film that I love, though man, it's hard picking a fave. Josh, I agree with you with hard picking a fave because to me, the series is almost interchangeable depending on my mood.
Mm-hmm.
And it's very hard to rank them, in my opinion.
Right. It's more like there are tiers of movies, which I'll explain in my rankings because
Right.
there's ones at the top, there's ones in the middle, and there's ones on the bottom.
So next we have at Y2 Stump. He has 1, 3, Nostalgia for 4 and 5, H2O, and the zombie flicks. Guess that's most of them, huh? Yeah, it is. But he doesn't have 2 on there, so I guess he's not a huge fan of part 2.
He probably would be if he remembered it instead of writing
Yeah, maybe. I mean, maybe Halloween 2 should have been called Halloween Part 2 since it is a part 2.
Yeah. Halloween again.
Again,
Still Halloween.
yes.
I still know what's happening on Halloween.
I believe the tagline was more of the night he came home. That's what it was.
Is it really?
Yeah.
Oh.
Okay, at Bade Turkin, we have 1, 2, and 3, and I like the RZ ones, Rob Zombie ones, better than everything beyond 3.
Okay.
So Daniel is. Oh, I said. Well, okay. His name is also Daniel. Now, his full name is Daniel Bade Turkin, and he has a great thumbnail picture, which is Dario Argento's opera. But yeah, 1, 2, and 3, and he likes the zombie ones better. What do you think of that, Nate?
I see a pattern forming.
Well, let's go to the next one. We have at Boosh Moose 27.
What a name.
Boosh Moose. That is a good one. He has 1 and 2 for sure. 3 is great as a standalone. I also enjoyed Rob Zombie's take on 1.
You don't say.
Yeah, it sounds very familiar. It's not the same person, we assure you. But yeah, I again, we'll get into it again. But yes, 3 is great as a standalone. It's almost not part of the series to me. It's like its own film.
Right, and in that it is what it is.
Yeah, it's Halloween 3. It should just be called. I've mentioned this before, but not today. On somewhere else, I've mentioned before that it should just be called Season of the Witch, even though it has nothing to do with a witch per se.
Yes, you mentioned before on Twitter.
Yeah.
I saw a tweet about it.
Yes, there you go.
No, but I mean everybody has said that. Horror fans have begun to say just call it Season of the Witch, and it's a fine movie.
Yep. I would call it it's more along the lines of like Puppet Masters, I guess, or or something.
Oh, man, I don't know what to classify that as.
Maybe
Like it's just so goofy and weird.
yes, it is. I love it. I could roll around with Halloween 3. At Default Profit, he says, or she says, I don't know if it just says at Default Profit. Their icon is a flame.
It says.
It says H2O because I'm a heathen.
See?
You are a heathen. No, H2O.
Revoked.
Yeah, I saw H2O in the theater, and I was really amped, and then I was kind of let down when I saw it. But then rewatching it on DVD, I kind of grew an appreciation for it. But it's not one that I revisit too often. It feels very very much like an afterthought of, because it came out after Scream, and they asked Kevin Williamson to do a treatment on it, like a script doctoring, and it's one of the things that I don't know. But I mean, what are your thoughts on H2O, Nick?
Well, I'll tell you about it when I rank it.
Okay. Okay. Also, we have at Evil Episodes, Mr. Mike Merriman. He says, first 3. I enjoyed H2O when it initially released, but oh my god, it's Jamie Lee Curtis in a Halloween flick again, wore off. So.
And I honestly, well, no, wait, I'll wait.
No, go on.
All right, fine, I'll tell you. I think that is a lot of what the hype was at the time. Oh my god, Jamie Lee Curtis in a Halloween movie again.
Right.
And I think that like, when it came out in the 90s, that turned me off from the start. I was like, this is what people are getting hyped for now? This type of nostalgia trip? This was in the 90s when I was a cynical teenager, first off.
Uh-huh.
And second off, I had no idea that would be pretty much how the horror industry would operate for the next 20 years thereafter. Like, oh, this person's in that movie again. Angus Grimm in Phantasm 5, that sort of thing.
Well, he was in the other 4.
Right, I know, but 30 years later, right?
Right. Well, yeah.
No, 20. But you know what I mean, not just him. Like, everything is based on this weird nostalgia that we can't let go of when it comes to the main slasher franchises or whatever. It's a pain in the butt.
Yeah, I mean, H2O, when, you had Jamie Lee in it, and I mean, Halloween H2O is the one that they asked Carpenter if he wanted to come back to the series, which I think would have been a good thing for it. I really think that it would have. I would say, I don't know if it would have been a better film. I would say, yeah, maybe it would have been a better film. Mm-hmm. But I mean, she's not the only one that came back. They also brought back what is it, Marion from Halloween 1 and 2, the one that's with Dr. Loomis, the girl from the psych ward, the smoker. Yeah, she's the one in the beginning that gets killed. After Joseph Gordon-Levitt does, but I mean, the thing about H2O is that, again, it feels like like I said, an afterthought where, you had the Scream series and Scream became huge, and then they were like, all right, we have to, we have this slasher boom again. Let's make H2O and let's get LL Cool J and who's the popular kids now? Well, Josh Hartnett is, and the girl Michelle Williams from Dawson's Creek, and let's just put all of them into this movie and make an amalgamation of the past, the present, and the future of horror. Let's put it all together, and then they kind of like, I know Rick Rosenthal did it. Because, he did part 2, and it's like one of the things, well, it almost seems like Halloween 2, Rick Rosenthal kind of got bested by John Carpenter, so John Carpenter turns down H2O, so they get Rick Rosenthal to say, F you, Mr. Carpenter, and he just still creates the same movie. The stuff without the violence, if you will. Because it doesn't really have that much violence. H2O.
It's such a generic late 90s slasher in
Right.
so many respects. Because after Scream really changed. Well, no, it didn't even change slashers. It reinvigorated them.
Yeah.
But not necessarily for the better. Like, what slashers between the years...
I have a list.
No. Between 96 and 2002, let's say, which of them even came close to surpassing Scream?
Surpassing Scream? Not too many. I would
none
say
of them did, I don't think.
Not really. No. I mean, some of the ones I would put out there would be Urban Legend and I mean, I still haven't I really like but don't love. I Know What You Did Last Summer. I actually like the sequel a lot more.
I hate those movies.
I do. I'm telling you, the
and
sequel
even
is
Urban
a lot
Legend is like the most generic stuff.
No,
like,
no, dude.
These movies were not that they were they all sort of like settled into this complacent, take no risks, we'll make money sort of mentality.
Well, yeah, that's where they got all the TV stars and put them in movies.
God, dude,
from that,
I know.
Yeah. And it's like, let's get all the teen kids from these
Right.
TV shows.
Who's on Party of Five?
Yeah.
Who's on Buffy?
Yep. And I forgot to mention that Rosenthal, after doing H2O, also did Resurrection.
Oh yeah, thanks. Thanks for that.
Which I don't think is necessarily his fault, because you got to understand that there are a lot more people with their hands in the cookie jar than just the director.
Oh yeah, I always blame what's his head, that producer,
Mustafa Akkad.
Yeah, the one who's dead.
Yeah,
I blame him. He's dead. He can't hurt me, or can he?
Yeah, he will now.
Probably. But no, I mean, that's like people are so quick to say Rob Zombie ruined the Halloween series. Dude, Mustafa Akkad would not let it stop. Every couple of years he was like, I got bills to pay.
Yep.
Time to fund another Halloween picture.
At Craig4W says Halloween 1 and 2.
Good.
Yes, there's no arguing here.
Right.
I'm not going to argue with that. At Josh McMillan, he writes us again. He says...
He's cheating!
Yeah, son of a bitch. He writes, least favorite would have to be Resurrection, but I still enjoy it. So there you have it. Hey, and then... Now, we have the sequel tweet. We have at Corpsehead, who says, favorites are 1 and 3. I also enjoy Rob Zombie's movies. I have to agree with Josh on Resurrection. So, I mean, there's always an audience for a movie, which, I mean, it's true. No matter...
And I mean, because even here we're making fun of like Resurrection and H2O and stuff, but honestly, I still like those movies way more than I like a lot of like the direct-to-video stuff that's out there. The slashers that aren't even worth watching.
Yeah,
that are go check through Netflix sometimes. Okay, there's a lot of shit out there in this world, and this stuff is still better than that. Like, even the worst stuff in this series is still like heads above some of the crappiest shit out there. Absolutely. But I still don't like Resurrection.
That's okay. So we also have one from at Brandon_Darling. He says, favorite, probably the first one, but I love Season of the Witch. Worst, Resurrection, hands down. So instead of putting his hands up, he puts his hands down for Resurrection. Hashtag Silver Shamrock. So Brandon, I am not going to disagree with you. Nick, do you have a disagreement with him?
No, I mean, it's the same thing. Everybody agrees. This was probably not a great rankum, maybe. I don't know. No, I'm nervous.
At M. Lyons, and that's Lyons 180, he says, I love Season of the Witch. So there's another one for Season of the Witch. I think Season of the Witch takes the cake here, man. Mm-hmm. At Popcorn Jacks, that's a cool name. That's JAX. I enjoy all of them. However, I regret to say I find H2O boring and very slow. I enjoy a slow burn, but it's the 7th film! Exclamation. Yeah, it does. I mean, it does have some cool, tense moments. The thing about H2O that I love, the one scene that I really get pumped up about, is when Laurie is underneath of the tables and Michael Myers is throwing the tables. Like, she's crawling and crawling, and he just keeps on throwing them side by side, or throwing them, left to right. which I believe was supposed to be used in a earlier sequel. Like it was a sequence that they were going to use, but they decided to put it in H2O. So there is that. It might have been Halloween 2. I can't recall right now.
I can never remember that stuff.
Yeah, it's I just get so excited over seeing, like, because one thing that's definitely missing from a lot of slasher movies, especially the newer ones and a lot of the older ones too from the 80s, is the suspense. Like there isn't too much suspense.
Right.
You don't feel that like dread or anything. It's just like, oh, there's somebody with an axe chasing somebody and they're gonna die. Cool.
Right. Too many jump scares.
Yeah.
I was listening to earlier today, a really great podcast was Jericho, Chris Jericho's podcast, The Wrestler, and he had Eli Roth on. And what he said about like modern horror movies using all those jump scares, his take on it is that when you see that, you're seeing a very insecure director. That, if you're making a good horror movie and you're sure that people are going to be freaked out by what you're making, then you shouldn't have to have a bunch of cheesy jump scares in your movie because they're going to follow you down a path.
Right.
But when you see a bunch of jump scares like that, you're seeing a director who feels like he doesn't know what he's doing, so he's just going to put these in to make sure he's getting that manipulated response. And I agree with him to a certain extent because I'm certain that there's probably a lot of producers out there standing over the shoulder of the director going, you got to have jump scares in this pot.
You do. There are, I would say there are moments where it definitely works. And if you utilize them in a good way, everybody enjoys a good jump scare. I mean, it's
right. You know what I'm talking about.
Oh, yeah, I know. The ones that...
Slasher.
Oh, yeah.
It was jump scare, it was the cat. Oh, jump scare, it's the wind.
Yeah, even the trailers have the jump scares.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, and don't forget, Halloween 2 did have the cat jump scare. I'm trying to figure out, if anybody knows, what was the very first cat jump scare? I need to find this out. Like, where did it originate?
Can we Google that? I'll try and Google. Read the next tweet.
All right. At Zombear13, Zombear says, 1 and 2, of course, soft spot in my heart for the Terrible 6, which I taped off of TV back in the day and watched a ton. So, we got Zombear13 that loves, or has a soft spot in his heart for 6. I can understand that. 6 is almost like, well, you got, let's just break this down. You have Halloween 1 and 2, then you have 3, then you have 4, 5, and 6, and then you have H2O and Resurrection. So, and then you have the zombie movies. H2O, yes, H2O did do away with 3, 4, 5, and 6, and then they went on to Resurrection, which died. It killed the series again. It didn't resurrect it. And then Zombie came in and redid it, and now they're doing another Halloween film with Marcus Dunstan, where they are erasing everything all the way back to 3 and starting off of 2. It's let's just keep hitting reset, until we get it right.
They did the same thing with the Texas Chainsaw franchise, where like now the next one that's coming out is going to be, well, no, the last one that came out was a sequel to part 1, erasing the whole series up to that. And then the next one that comes out is going to be a sequel to that, so it's going to be essentially a new part 3.
But it's a prequel. And it shows you why Leatherface became...
Somebody draw me a flow chart. I can't just...
yeah. At Henny Bottle...
And a TV show's coming. For everything. Oh, Leatherface, the TV show. The high school years.
At Henny Bottle says, Halloween... the one with Busta Rhymes in it. I don't know if Henny, and he or she also did an at Graveyard Sister. Halloween, the one with Busta Rhymes. I don't know if you mean you like it or you don't like it. I'm not quite sure.
I'm pretty sure they don't like it.
Because It is in response to what are your favorites? Which is the worst one? So I assume one would be Halloween, the one with Busta Rhymes in it. That's what they should have called it. Instead of Halloween Resurrection, it should have been Halloween, the one with Busta Rhymes in it.
Yeah.
Just to differentiate. We have, let's see, at Mick_boss. H1 and 2, but love them all, even Resurrection. It's so stupid, but I can have a good time with it. 5 is the only one unwatchable, in my opinion.
5?
5.
A surprising answer, but okay.
Come on, Mick.
I'm
Really?
I'm not upset. I'm actually happy
I'm
that
not.
somebody gave a different answer.
Me too, actually, because it's kind of getting repetitive. I get somebody not liking 5. I mean, there's no definitive answer about what's good and what's not, but 5, like 4 and 5, I don't. I mean, yeah, 6 is part of the series, or the trilogy, let's say, of 4, 5, and 6. It's almost like the Tommy Jarvis trilogy, like 4, 5, and 6 of Friday the 13th. But like this one's the Jamie one. But I mean, 5 just has some cool fucking moments to it. And another thing, like it has some suspenseful scenes in it. With the air duct where Jamie's trying to crawl up and Michael Myers is stabbing it, and it's like that little girl almost got stabbed. It's for real. Like that's some cool shit. And the stuff where she's running through the field with the car chasing her. It's some really good stuff. And like people in that movie die that you don't expect to die. You expect somebody to also be a final girl, and that may or may not happen. It's got some really cool moments to it. I really love 5, and it's got the best. I'm not going to go into it because they do it on Hysteria, so I'm not going to steal that from them. There's another podcast that Hysteria continues. How long has it been since you've seen 5?
It's been so long I don't even remember part 5.
Really?
I mean, like it's difficult for me to even remember it.
So
Part
you're not
4
going to
and
remember.
No, I don't even know what we're talking. No idea.
Okay. You'll understand if you've
Whenever
seen
you see it
5.
ever again.
You should watch 5.
I'll see it again.
It has some ridiculous moments to it, and the weird thing, you want to hear something weird with me? Because I have a lot of stories like this, Nick. I have a lot of weird stories. Halloween 3, Halloween 1 and 2 I watched with my brother. I'm going to go family. And who I saw the Halloween franchise with. You ready? Because this kind of determines where I am with the movies, too. It's always the environment in which you see the film that sometimes can dictate how you feel about it in the future.
Of course. Absolutely.
So, this ain't going to be long, but 1 and 2 I saw on TV with my brother, and we would watch every Halloween and eat that shit up and watch and talk about it at school the next day. When, he would be in his classrooms, I'd be in mine. Hey, did you watch Halloween? Oh, it's so scary, blah, blah, blah. Halloween 3 I watched with my dad. We rented from a video store, and after that movie was over, my dad, or as the movie was going, my dad just kept on saying, "This movie's stupid. Stupid. This is stupid." But at the end of it, of course, like, I'm about to eject it, and I'm looking at my dad, and he just has, like, this blank stare, and then he turns his head real slowly towards me, like he's a robot, to scare the shit out of me, and he wouldn't stop doing it until I, like, got really upset. So, yeah, I kind of love fucking 3. 4, I saw with my brother and friends, his friends, and saw it at a midnight screening, opening night. So you can imagine the crowd and just the cheers and all that. Halloween 5, I saw, get ready, with my mom and dad, because my mom wanted to see Halloween 5. And imagine going to the theater with your parents whilst being in high school. in a crowded theater with a whole bunch of teenagers, and the only old people in it are your parents. And then the car ride home is how bad that movie was, how they talked about how bad the movie was, and I'm like, but I enjoyed it. 6 was like a cable viewing, no big deal. 7 was like a cable viewing, no big deal. And H2O was in the theater by myself, as well as Zombies and H2O, or I'm sorry, Rob Zombie's Halloween 2 I watched by myself. Like, I bought the DVD without seeing it. And that's how I watched it. So, how did you see them, Nick?
I've only ever seen in the theater parts 6 and the Rob Zombie ones.
How was seeing 6 in the theater?
I was 13. It was the first R-rated movie I had ever seen in the theater.
Uh-huh.
And, of course, I thought it was greatly stupid. Because that's exactly what it is.
Yeah.
I actually really liked the blood and the gore and thought that was all that mattered at the time because I was, like, 13. And, yes, they used to let you into an R-rated movie if you were only 13 because they were like, fuck it, I'm not asking questions.
Yeah. Until recently, they check everything.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so thank you very much to everybody for responding.
Right, for our first episode, that was a lot of responses.
That was a lot.
Appreciate that.
Yes. So what we're going to do right now is we are going to rank the series in our personal opinion. So what I want to ask Nick, what do you have as? And we are going. There are 10 total. You're going to go 10, and I'm going to go 10. Then you're going to go 9. I'm going to go 9, etc.
Okay, so we're starting on the bottom.
Yes.
My lowest one, as if you couldn't tell, involves Busta Rhymes. It's Halloween Resurrection is my lowest one in the series. Again, still better than a lot of shit I've seen. I would put it like just below the midpoint of all horror movies I've seen. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
Like, I would not say that this is worse than... you just mentioned Puppet Master. Most of the Puppet Master...
Well, I mentioned Puppet Masters, plural, but go on.
Most of the Puppet Master franchise is below Part 8 of this one. But, that's another story for another episode.
Yeah, it is.
Your lowest movie in the series.
My number 10 is Resurrection.
Busta!
Yeah, not my favorite. It's my least.
Favorite.
It's my least watched, and some people do have an affection toward it. But I'll still watch it. Like if I'm gonna marathon it, I will include it in the marathon. But
I'll never watch it again.
Which,
Number 9.
9. Go ahead.
H2O. I don't like it. I've never liked it. It took me years to see it. It came out in 98. I probably didn't see it until about 2000, 2001, because I was just like, nope, not on board for this one. And then I finally saw it, and I didn't like it. I honestly may like it more now because I'm less cynical than I was then, but only slightly less cynical.
It's funny when you hear when I go through my list, it's going to be questionable to some horror fans, but again, this is all just opinions. They're all assholes and stink. But number 9 for me is Curse of Michael Myers.
That's okay, because that movie also is balls.
It is balls, but it has some cool moments, and the producer's cut does add a little bit to it. Mm-hmm. But I think I can't remember his name. The bad guy from Lethal Weapon being like. I don't want to spoil it, but I just, it doesn't feel too much like a Halloween movie. It feels like something else, you know?
Well, that brings me to my number 8.
Yeah.
Which is The Curse of Michael Myers. Like, I agree that it's pretty much not good, and the only reason it's ahead of 7 for me is because of my silly nostalgia that I saw it when I was 13 and I saw it in the theater, and it has some brutal kills. A dude's head gets exploded when he gets hooked up to a circuit breaker box in the basement, and it makes no sense, but it was so just over the top that I was on board for that. And I still have not seen that one again. I own a copy of the producer's cut, and I've never been able to watch it because of my other obligations when it comes to watching horror movies. Maybe this year I'll finally see it.
Do it. You got a whole month.
I know.
My number 8, Rob Zombie's Halloween.
The first one.
The first one. Yes, that is my number 8. I saw that one in the theater and by myself, like I said, and it was one of those cool theaters where like you have no light at all. It's in like this dark theater in Philly, and it was just like you're almost in a living room watching. I was waiting for somebody to kill me in it because I was like the only one in there. But when I initially saw it, it felt it was okay, but it had like a lot of the tense moments just weren't there for me. Like when you had the you had the girl and her boyfriend and all that kind of stuff doing the whole PJ Souls thing with the get me a beer and all that. And they cut outside and it's like, oh, here's Michael Myers walking around, that he's going to go in here and hide and then kill her. I'm like, why don't you not show Michael Myers and then just let him appear? It'll be a lot scarier. Thank you.
Yeah.
So that kind of ruined it for me. And the never-ending ending, it was almost like the they live fight of Halloween.
Now, you don't like the ending of that?
It went on too long. Like, I thought it was over, and then it just kept on going. And it was
you
like,
mean like the whole end sequence? Not
the whole end sequence, yeah, where it was like throw through a wall and throw through a wall, and then...
I love the end itself, where she shoots him in the face and she's just screaming madly.
Right.
Like, because that's probably what had happened if a teenage girl had to shoot a guy in the face, even if he was trying to kill her.
Right.
She'd just be like, lose her mind.
Yep. So that's my number 8. What's your number 8? Or your number 7, sorry.
Oh, yeah, we're down to number 7.
Yeah.
Number 7 for me, and this is where they get kind of interchangeable. So I'm going to say number 5, because I can't even remember it, and it made like no impact on me when I first saw it. I don't remember disliking it, but it wasn't terrible.
When was? Do you remember how long ago it was?
Oh, no, I mean, it had to be around the same time, like when I was first getting into slashers, and when I was first getting into horror movies in general, when I was like, anywhere between like 11 and 13, I went and I watched all the Jasons, I watched all the Freddys, I watched all the Halloweens. So somewhere in like the early to mid 90s, I watched that one and pretty much all the other ones.
Huh. Yeah. I mean, it's just my opinion. I would always suggest trying to watch it again. You might enjoy it.
I might, because at the time I was too much behind my guy who was Jason at the time.
Right.
And now maybe I'd be like more open to the idea of enjoying it.
I'll get into 4 and 5, but it's very, it has that Halloween feel to it. Like not the franchise, but just the season itself, so my number 7 is H2O. And it's weird that I put it in front of Rob Zombie's Halloween, but the reason I do is it does have those cool, tense moments that I really enjoy in a horror film. It's not a perfect movie, and neither is Rob Zombie's Halloween movie, but I still enjoy them. And don't misunderstand me. This whole series, I really enjoy pretty much all of these movies. I'm just ranking them because that's what the segment is called. So I'm not saying this sucks or anything like that. So yeah, that's about as much as I can say about H2O for now. Nick, what you got for 6?
Number 6 for me is actually just, I wrote it in part 4 because part 4 and part 5 are interchangeable to me. I'm not that into them. They're just kind of middle of the road for me.
All right. 6 for me is Zombies Halloween 2. And you're gonna see a weird thing happen in the next 5. But Zombies Halloween 2 is, I believe, it sounds crazy to some people out there with their opinions, but I think it's a better film than Zombies Halloween. And the reason I say that is, again, it really captures the season. Where the one thing I don't like is Compton as Strode. She is very kind of, I don't know if it's her acting or just the script or what. Maybe it's a combination of everything. I don't like her as a character. The thing that I love about H2 or Halloween 2, the thing that happens with Annie in this is one of the most powerful moments, I think, in horror. And spoiler, Annie dies, but when she is dead and the way it's handled in this movie, I think is one of the most dramatic, impactful deaths of a character, a horror character, that I would say probably have ever seen in a horror film. Like, a lot of times it's like, oh, somebody's dead. Oh, somebody's dead. But in Zombies Halloween, he captured this moment of the aftermath of somebody dying and how it affects somebody. Like, they do that in 2, the same character, but, and I don't, it's no slight to Charlie Cyphers or anything, but it's just like, you let him out. He turns into Mr. Dr. Loomis, and then they escort him off screen, and then some other asshole takes over. This one here, like, you just see the turmoil that's going on inside of this dude's head when he sees his daughter dead. And that really means a lot to me in a film, especially a horror film.
One of the things I'm going to get into when I finally reach the Rob Zombie Halloweens on my chart is that the Rob Zombie Halloweens have consequences for the characters.
Yes, they do. You're right. Yes, and that's.
I'll explain more as I get up there.
Yep, and I'm not going to touch on that at all. But yeah, I would say that and one thing that I really like is the guy dressed as Frankenstein's monster. Daniel Roebuck, the actor, when he's outside and she's talking to Margot Kidder about that, I don't know what it is about the visual, but I just liked it. It's that in the store with Howard Hessman and the party, the Rob Zombie Halloween party where they're all dancing, and it's crazy. It's got some cool moments. So, yeah, Halloween 2, number 6. What's your number 5?
Number 3 is my number 5, Season of the Witch.
Yeah, number 3 is your number. It's going to get confusing.
Right. Next up in my list, without numbers, is Part 3, Season of the Witch. I put it below what I would consider my favorite 4 because it's just sort of like passable on its own as its own movie, but you can't really compare it to the other Halloweens properly. So I enjoy it more than the other ones that I've mentioned so far, but not more than what's yet to come.
All right. Okay, so number 5 is number 5. I'm laughing because you'll understand as we progress here. I think you all know where I'm going. Halloween 5, yeah, I said it before and I'll say it again. I really have an affection toward 4 and 5. I just 5 just has that, again, that Halloween feel. And 4 came out right during the 1989 Halloween, and then 5 came out directly the year after during Halloween. So they have, but the movies themselves have those Halloween feel, have that Halloween season feel, which I love. And yeah, 5 has some great tense moments that I just really enjoy. So that's where I'm with 5. What's your number 4, Nick?
The next 4 for me, as it's pretty apparent right now, the only ones that I haven't mentioned are John Carpenter's Part 1, the original Part 2, and then Rob Zombie's Part 1 and Part 2. Okay? So I'm going to be giving those up to you. The way I choose between them, man, there's this battle of the Dr. Loomises. When I choose which one I'm going to watch, basically between John Carpenter's original Halloween or Rob Zombie's, it's predicated on which Dr. Loomis I want to see. Donald Pleasant's Dr. Loomis is one of my favorite horror movie characters ever. He's this He's like chewing up the scenery, larger than life, totally a ridiculous character. He's steadfast and determined, and he gets angry and irritated by anyone who hampers his search for Michael Myers, right?
Uh-huh.
And Malcolm McDowell's Dr. Loomis is different because he's just as concerned. He's just as larger than life. He's obviously scenery chewing because he's, a famous character actor. But Malcolm McDowell, in every role he's in, he brings this half-drunk self-awareness to it. And I think that is just completely awesome, and especially with what it allows him to do with the character in Rob Zombie's Halloween 2. All of that storyline that the character goes on in his book publishing subplot was kind of his idea, and I think it's just kind of great. So I enjoy that too. But I think I like the original Dr. Loomis more. So the next pick for me in my ranking is going to be Rob Zombie's Halloween. I enjoy it. I don't think it's perfect by any means. It's sometimes hard to defend because there's just really dumb parts in it. But I still enjoy it for what it is. I think that it is a fun, fresh take on the original. Parts of it that I don't like the kid who plays young Michael Myers. You can't defend him. But it's like child acting, It's like the kid in Star Wars. He sucked in episode 1. He's not as bad as him, but he's close. There's parts where I'm just like, come on. Also, the director's cut of part 1 is like too long. And I kind of get tired by the end of it. Because I don't even know what's added in the director's cut. Whether it was scenes or just elongated scenes or something, but it's just not as fun. But I still enjoy it. I'm putting it this year. I'm putting it below part of the other parts. Maybe next year I would put Rob Zombie's part 1 higher on the list. It just depends kind of on what mood I'm in.
Right, and I feel the same way about the series too. But my number 4 is number 4. Love number 4. I do love number 4 because it's, again, it captures the essence of Halloween for me. I just have maybe it was 88. I can't remember the years anymore. They're all blending together. That's what happens when you get old. But 4 just has that. I mean, I have the nostalgia for it because of the way I saw it. Yeah, but it's the Jamie character. The little girl in peril. Who I think Danielle Harris was like a damn great little actress. She's still good, but I mean, as a little kid actor, you don't really get to see too many of them that are really good, and she sells the shit out of it in 4 and 5. She's extremely good, and I really like the one who played her stepsister. What's her name? Ellie Cornell. I like the two of them and their dynamic, and just the crazy stuff that happens in 4. With the chipmunk boyfriend. I can't remember his name. Hey, why am I forgetting his name? But him cheating on her and with the sheriff's daughter. With the cops do it better T-shirt and the shotgun going through her. It's like, it's got all that kind of stuff. It's got the one character actor that plays the one cop that gets thrown out the window. Or there's a lot. Or no, that was 5. Never mind. But it's got Bo Starr as the sheriff. Him. He's a Philly dude, and him and his brother are in a bunch of movies. His brother's Mike Starr, the gas man from Dumb and Dumber. But he really is like a badass sheriff. That plays off of Loomis very well. So there's a lot of things about 4 I really enjoy. So that's just me. A lot of people find it boring. I find it enjoyable as anything. So, Nick, what do you got for 3?
My third favorite in the Halloween franchise is the original Halloween.
All right.
I don't really have to explain that.
No, you don't.
I mean, it's fun. Again, I kind of like Jason takes my heart, which would be the one-liner I say before he rips out my heart. But he, I pretty much love the brutality of those series better. So, I mean, it's not my favorite of even the Halloween franchise, but, I enjoy it for what it is. And if I'm going to watch a Halloween movie, I am most likely going to watch one of these top 4 that I'm talking about now.
All right. So, you ready for my number 3?
Your third favorite is it part 3?
It's part 3. It's it. This one is, again, I fucking love 3, man. I love Tom Atkins. I love Stacey Nelkin and her elf face. I love everything about this. I love the masks, the Dick Warlock putting his fingers or his face into people and just like tearing their faces open, and just there's so much. Or no, he gets his body ripped up. Never, whatever. I love 3 a lot, and I tried to watch it as much as possible every Halloween. And by the way, now that we're into 3, 2, and 1, the score of all 3 of these movies, 4 and 5, even without Howard, he worked with 2 and 3 as well. The score is so fucking good in 3. Those stingers just work. The synth stingers, they work so well in part 3. I love it. It's completely rewatchable, and it's the female baseball team. It's in a league of its own. It really is. It's one of those things that you just. It's great, man. It's just a great movie. So that's all I'm going to say. I'm not going to. We're talking a lot about that. We're covering a whole Halloween series here, people. So,
right.
Nick.
Well, I'll just do my last 2 together.
Okay.
Because one we just reviewed, and then the other one is going to be shocking and get me all sorts of hate for making it my favorite overall.
Okay.
And I don't even care, because that's how I feel about it, and that's what you can deal with when you listen to my show. So, Halloween 2 that we just reviewed, or spoke about, we didn't really review it, we shot the shit over, is my second favorite in the series. Mm-hmm. And it's because I actually love most of all the one that people don't always get or can't, like they said in our Facebook chat there, that they can't get into, right?
Uh-huh.
I love Rob Zombie's Halloween 2, and I love it because it is sort of this ridiculous departure from the series, but still within the context of the series. Basically, with Halloween 2, Rob Zombie's Halloween 2, what you get is a character dealing directly with the consequences of the first movie. I love that. And it really bothers me when I watch a horror movie like the regular Halloween 2 and like Laurie Strode is in the hospital and is like able to smile at someone's joke. No, she should be a broken shell after what she went through. If the first movie was truly horrifying, she should be fucking and utterly destroyed. Like Texas Chainsaw Massacre. The way the Texas Chainsaw Massacre ends is the way that any movie should end, with the main person who actually gets to live driven out of their mind. That's how it should end. And that's how the first movie ends with Rob Zombie's Halloween 1. Again, I said it wasn't perfect, but the second movie, like, the amount of weird stuff that you have going on there, the weird imagery of, Michael Myers seeing his mother riding the white horse and stuff. So much cool stuff in that movie. I think I just absolutely love it. There's the big party scene that Jack was talking about. I totally think is cool. The scene where Danielle Harris's character is killed. I might have just spoiled it. Whatever. How did you not know that Danielle Harris was going to die? Where she's killed like in slow motion while the screaming is happening in real time. That is a magnificent scene that is probably better than 90% of movies that you're going to see in horror. At least for me, I think that is so magnificent.
And it's Brad Dourif's acting as well as the direction. And the scene of his reaction, that
Right.
fucking kills me, dude.
And it's a beautiful movie with a lot of beautiful, cool imagery and shots, and it doesn't try to fit into the box that so many of these other Halloween movies try to shove themselves in, especially the lower ones where, like, you know, they bring back Laurie Stroud or, you know, whatever. You have in part 6, they do similar things as they do in Halloween 2, where they try and expand upon the story, but they end up derailing and going down a whole different path. Whereas this is still within the confines of what would be experienced if Michael Myers being a killer was something that actually sort of happened, you know, feasibly,
Right.
within reason. Everyone would be driven insane, and their lives would be, you know, completely irreversibly damaged. I love any movie that deals with the consequences of an actual horror thing. Like, it really bothers me if you've ever seen the Insidious movies. Why does Insidious 2 begin and no one goes to jail for what happened in Insidious 1? You know?
Yep.
Bothers the hell out of me. Go and watch those movies so I don't have to explain it. The movie Oculus ends exactly the opposite, where one person lives and they go to jail because the police don't believe in ghosts. And they're like, we found dead bodies, we blame you. The last man standing. You go to jail now. I love movies that deal with the consequences of what's actually going on. So that movie, the whole of Halloween 2, is just, here's everything that's the consequences of the first movie, plus the horror is still coming. You know?
Mm-hmm.
Totally my favorite in the whole series. And I don't care if you hate me for it. You know, try and explain to me, like, how my opinion doesn't matter. You can't.
Get into a Twitter war with Nick about this.
Oh, God, I'm not even going to bother.
There's no need, really. I mean, you know, it's just opinions. But are you ready for my 2 and 1?
Yes.
All right. Number 2 is Halloween 2. Sorry I gave away everything when I said 5 and I started chuckling, but 2, we talked about it.
Right. So why do you like 1 more than 2?
Why do I like 1 more than 2? The reason is, it is in my opinion, obviously, I'm talking about it. So why do I even say that? Why do people say that, in my opinion? Because it is your opinion. But Halloween is a masterclass in horror filmmaking. And not just filmmaking, but in suspense and in character and in independence. Like, it captures the American dream, let's say, in this little fucking movie. Like, this long-haired hippie crypt keeper dude made this fucking movie, and it became one of the biggest horror films ever. And the reason for it is, you have Donald Pleasance hamming it up. Jamie Lee Curtis, I think, captures a normal girl. You know, I think the girls in this, which is cool. Like, Deborah Hill wrote the female characters of this film, and John Carpenter wrote the rest of it, because she understood women, being one, and she was able to, just the dialogue between the girls themselves, like, it's there, you know, there's some great stuff there. But when it comes to the actual suspense, and when Michael Myers shows up and you see his face and it goes away and things like that, there are a lot of shots in this movie that I don't know, it feels very old school, but also new for its time, and it was the granddaddy of all this stuff. And yeah, it's not just because of that, but when I watch it, I always enjoy it. Like, there is just the score alone, the fake fall leaves, the just so much to this movie that I just can't. I can never say that the original Halloween is not as good as anything else in the series. Like, I think it is the highest watermark for the series, and I don't think it will ever be beaten, because it's just, like I said, it's a master class. You know, everybody brought their A game to this movie and made it for the masses, you know? And
you know what's weird is that we went this far before we actually mentioned the score to the movies.
Yeah,
like,
dude. Well,
how great is the fucking score to parts 1 and 2?
It's incredible. And, it was almost like an afterthought by Carpenter.
Right.
You know? It really is. It's like...
Oh my God, my least favorite musical moment in the whole series is from one of the Rob Zombie ones. Love hurts.
Yeah, that's where he fucked up too. That's where a lot of people turned their backs on him when he used Love Hurts in Halloween.
That was so bad.
Yeah, that was
a bad moment.
Yeah.
I think that's in part 2, right?
No, it was in part 1. That was during the when she's stripping.
Oh, is it?
And
yes.
then, yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
And then he's
right.
sitting on the front steps.
Right. Oh, that part's so goofy.
Yeah.
I can't deal with it. And like that part, like even when I watch it, I laugh out loud and then I sit back and roll my eyes and wince until it's over.
Yeah. You know, the other thing about the series that we haven't even mentioned too, not only the score but the opening credits. Like when the opening credits start for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 for me, I get chills because 4 and 5 especially, like the 5 is one of the coolest with the knife slashing the pumpkin. Mm-hmm. It's really cool. And yeah, 1 just has the little pumpkin there and it has the name and the shit rolls, you know, it's just basic credits. But it's the score that sells it, and then 2, where it's zooming in on the pumpkin, and then the pumpkin opens up and reveals a skull inside of it. That's fucking cool, man. You know, so that's But yeah,
I also like it because the pumpkin, like at the beginning of 2, it looks like someone just like freshly cut that pumpkin.
Yeah.
Not. It's not like if it was in a movie today. I guarantee you, when the next Halloween comes out, they'll have a fucking CGI pumpkin that is perfect in every way. And like this one looks like some sloppy haberdashery of a pumpkin, you know, just like, oh, we got to chisel it out, you know. Yeah. And if you ever tried to replicate it, you wouldn't be able to because it's so perfectly irrational a pumpkin. And I actually enjoy that.
So, yeah, I love the fucking series. I do. It's one of the greatest series out there. I mean, again, they're interchangeable. The same happens with the Friday the 13th, which I'm sure we'll do down the line during another Rankum segment. But it depends on the mood, and sometimes you're just in the mood for 3. Sometimes you want 1 and 2. Sometimes you want the 4 and 5 and 6. You know, or the zombie ones if you're a fan. You know, you can watch. You don't have to watch them in order. That's kind of what's cool about the series. You know. That'll wrap it up for Rankum.
And that's it. That's our show. That's the Jack and Nick Horror Show. Thanks for joining us, guys. Please,
yes, thank you.
Everybody out there, if you don't subscribe, like, and share this show everywhere that you can, we're never going to succeed with our grand plans in this whole project that we have coming up. Mm-hmm. So I hope that you enjoyed this show. If you did, please let us know. Find us on Twitter at Jack and Nick Show. Find us on Facebook. Just look us up. We're Jack and Nick Horror Show. On Twitter, you can find me. I'm at New Jersey Nick. And my gaming channel on YouTube, just look me up, New Jersey Nick. Jack, tell them who you are and where they can find you.
You can find him. You can find him at Jacob K666. That's at Jacob, Jacob, K as in knife, 666 as in the number of the beast. And, yeah, you can talk to me on there. I will respond. I will reply. My other Twitter handles, if you know who I am, are going to be going away, so there's going to be my only one.
So follow Jack's new Twitter.
Yeah, my new Twitter. My new old Twitter. But yes, definitely please subscribe. I really do hope you enjoyed the show, and I hope that we brought something new and fun for you, and we're going to keep on doing this until we hit a roadblock, which probably ain't going to happen for a long time, right, Nick?
I don't think so, buddy.
Yeah, I don't think so either. So, all right, thank you very much for listening, and tune in next time when we are going to be covering a Halloween classic that not many people consider a classic. All right, thank you very much, and we'll see you on the next show. Or hear you on it, or you'll hear us. Thank you.